We often imagine success as a sudden arrival, a grand event, or the strike of fortune's hand. Yet in truth, success is rarely a door flung open by chance. It is more like a path quietly laid brick by brick, step by step. The smallest choices we repeat each day, what we read, how we spend our hours, the words we speak even to ourselves, become the architecture of our destiny. We often think of greatness as something wrapped in brilliance, a grand stage with lights and applause, or a sudden burst of genius that sets one life apart from the rest. Yet the truth is far less dramatic and far more humbling. Greatness, in its truest form, is hidden in the ordinary. It does not come through a single dazzling act, but through the quiet repetition of choices that seem small and almost invisible. Just as a cathedral is built stone upon stone, so a life of significance is built habit upon habit, moment upon moment. When we admire the achievements of others, we see the peak of the mountain, but we rarely notice the long climb that made the peak possible. We see the musician's performance, but not the countless hours of practice. We hear the eloquence of a speaker, but not the solitude of their preparation. We admire the wisdom of a leader, but not the many nights of wrestling with thought and doubt. Ordinary hours, ordinary choices, ordinary struggles, these are the materials of greatness. They may seem trivial in the moment, yet together they form the unseen foundation that makes extraordinary things possible. There is a subtle danger in despising the ordinary. When we look only for grand moments, we miss the quiet duties of today. We tell ourselves that greatness is waiting somewhere in the future, when the right opportunity arrives, or when the world finally notices us. But the reality is that we are already shaping our destiny with what we do each morning, each evening, each unnoticed hour in between. The person who neglects the small will never be prepared for the great, for the great is nothing more than the small multiplied. Consider the simple habit of keeping one's word. It seems minor, a mere courtesy, yet over time it builds trust, and trust builds influence, and influence builds legacy. Or take the habit of self-control. At first it appears a private victory, unseen by others. Yet, in time, it becomes the strength that carries a man through temptation, hardship, and opportunity alike. These small things are not fragments of life, they are life. Greatness is not a gift bestowed upon a chosen few, but a harvest that grows quietly from seeds planted in the ordinary soil of daily living. The great lie is that we must wait for our chance. The truth is that our chance is already here, disguised in the mundane. To wash a dish, to rise on time, to speak kindly, to think carefully, such things may not seem heroic, but they carve the shape of the soul. And when the rare moment comes that demands courage, vision, or wisdom, it will not be the sudden brilliance of that moment that saves us, but the weight of habits that prepared us. Before a man achieves anything of outward worth, something must first take place within him. Success, in its visible form, is the fruit of an inner transformation, and that transformation is born of habit. Habits shape the soul before they ever shape success. They mold the unseen self, the thoughts, desires, and inclinations, long before they yield any applause or recognition in the world. What one repeats, one becomes, and what one becomes determines what one accomplishes. It is tempting to measure life by its visible milestones, titles, wealth, or recognition. Yet these are but shadows of something deeper. Long before a tree bears fruit, its roots are digging silently into the earth. The same is true of us. Our habits are those hidden roots. Every repeated choice, no matter how small, presses a pattern into the soul. That pattern grows into character, and character is the soil from which all true success springs. Without integrity, discipline, and perseverance formed in the hidden places, no achievement will endure. Think of a man who chooses each morning to order his thoughts instead of letting them wander into complaint or despair. To others, this may seem like nothing more than private discipline, yet over time this habit strengthens his soul. He learns resilience in difficulty, clarity in confusion, and gratitude in scarcity. Long before he stands in a position of influence, his inner life has been forged into something steady and unshakable. His success, when it comes, is not an accident. It is the natural outgrowth of habits that already shaped who he is. The danger lies in believing that we can achieve success without tending to the soul. Many try to build an outward image without first building inward strength. But hollow structures collapse under pressure, and empty victories leave men unsatisfied. Habits rescue us from this emptiness because they are not merely actions, they are teachers. They teach patience when we wait, humility when we fail, and discipline when we persist. In shaping the soul, they prepare us for the weight of responsibility that success inevitably brings. Even the smallest habits matter. A choice to speak truth instead of bending it, to finish what one starts instead of leaving it undone, to rise when one is weary rather than surrender to comfort. These choices carve channels in the heart. Over time, they form a character capable of carrying success with dignity rather than being crushed by it. The soul, having been disciplined, can then guide ambition, lest ambition consume the soul. So when you think of success, do not imagine it as a prize waiting in the distance. Think of it instead as the echo of who you are becoming. Habits shape that becoming. They are the sculptor's hands upon the clay of the soul, pressing, refining, and defining. Only when the soul is rightly formed does true success follow, and when it does, it is not fleeting, for it rests on the solid foundation of character already built in secret. Many hear the word discipline and imagine chains, rules, and the loss of pleasure. It is thought of as a prison that confines the spirit and denies one the liberty to live freely. Yet nothing could be further from the truth. Real bondage is found in the lack of discipline when desires control us, when impulses dictate our steps, when distractions scatter our days and waste our years. Discipline, on the other hand, is the path to freedom. It is not the enemy of joy, but the guard that protects it. It is not a set of chains, but the key that unlocks mastery over oneself. To live without discipline is to live at the mercy of appetite. Consider the man who cannot govern his tongue. His careless words wound others, fracture relationships, and return upon him as regret. Is he free? No, he is enslaved to his temper. Or take the one who cannot control his habits of consumption, whether of food, wealth, or pleasure. At first, indulgence feels like liberty, but soon the body weakens, the spirit dulls, and dependence grows. What once seemed freedom reveals itself as captivity. Without discipline, we are not rulers of our lives. We are captives of our impulses. True freedom comes when we can say no to ourselves. The man who disciplines his body to rise early is not bound. He is free to use the gift of time more fully. The student who disciplines the mind to study when distractions beckon is not a prisoner. He is free to enter the world of knowledge and opportunity. The soul that practices restraint is not starved but strengthened, for it can choose with clarity rather than be dragged by desire. Discipline is the training of the will so that it may govern wisely, and a governed will is a liberated will. It is often said that freedom means doing whatever one wishes, but such freedom is shallow and short-lived. If every desire is indulged, if every whim is obeyed, life soon collapses into chaos. True freedom is not the absence of boundaries, but the presence of order. A river without banks becomes a flood that destroys, but with banks, the river flows with power, direction, and life. Discipline gives us those banks. It channels our strength, focuses our efforts, and allows us to move with purpose rather than drift aimlessly. Even great achievements are born of discipline. The artist who paints with mastery does so not by occasional inspiration, but by years of practice and restraint. The athlete who triumphs on the field has trained countless unseen hours, disciplining the body against fatigue and laziness. The thinker whose wisdom shapes others has labored in silence, disciplining the mind to wrestle with questions most would avoid. Their success is nothing more than the fruit of disciplined choices multiplied over time, and with that discipline comes freedom. The freedom to create, to compete, to lead, to endure. There is also a deeper freedom, one that discipline alone can provide, the freedom of peace within. A disciplined life silences the torment of regret. It delivers us from the tyranny of wasted days and squandered talents. It brings a quiet strength that no external circumstance can shake. To walk in discipline is to carry within you the assurance that you are prepared, that you are not mastered by weakness, but guided by principle. So, when you hear the word discipline, do not imagine a prison. Imagine instead the unlocking of doors. Imagine strength replacing weakness, clarity replacing confusion, mastery replacing chaos. Discipline is the road that looks narrow but leads into wide fields. It is not bondage but freedom, the kind of freedom that allows a man not only to live, but to live fully, wisely, and well. When people think of transformation, they often imagine a sudden change, a dramatic turning point that shifts life in an instant. They wait for inspiration to strike like lightning, or for circumstances to finally align in their favor. Yet real transformation rarely arrives with thunder. It begins quietly, humbly, in small, faithful steps taken when no one is watching. These steps may seem insignificant, but they are the very foundation of lasting change. A single drop of water appears powerless, yet over time it shapes stone. So it is with the smallest acts of discipline and consistency. They shape the course of a life. The great danger is in despising the small. Many wait for a grand opportunity, believing that only a sweeping change will alter their path. But life is not transformed in a single leap. It is redirected in a series of steady movements. Consider a ship at sea. Adjust its course by only a degree, and over miles it will arrive in a completely different harbor. Likewise, the decision to rise a little earlier, to guard one's words, to think a little deeper, to save instead of squander. Each small choice shifts the soul in ways that compound over time. It is easy to underestimate the power of such steps because they are quiet, unseen, and often unrewarded at first. Reading a single page of a book, offering a kind word when anger tempts, resisting one indulgence, keeping one promise, these acts feel almost invisible. But repeated day after day, they engrave strength upon the heart. They teach the soul patience, and they build momentum until change becomes not only possible, but inevitable. Transformation is not the fruit of one mighty effort, but of faithful effort sustained. Think of the man who wishes to master his temper. He will not wake one morning suddenly free of anger, but he can begin by holding back one harsh word today. Tomorrow he may master another moment of irritation. Over weeks he grows in restraint, over months in peace, over years in wisdom. What once enslaved him loses power, not because of one dramatic triumph, but because of countless small victories strung together. The same principle applies to every area of life. Great strength is formed in small, faithful steps. The beauty of this truth is that it removes every excuse. No one can say transformation is beyond their reach, for it does not depend on wealth, privilege, or brilliance. It begins with what is already in your hand. A step as small as turning off a distraction, offering gratitude, or setting aside a moment of silence can begin to redirect the soul. Faithfulness in little things prepares us for greater things. For the heart that can be trusted with small duties will one day carry larger responsibilities with steadiness. And though the beginning feels slow, the end is astonishing. Small habits compound like seeds planted in hidden soil. At first, there is no sign of change, but in time roots grow deep and branches spread wide. The one who once despised small beginnings looks back and sees how those quiet steps became the path to transformation. Therefore, do not wait for the extraordinary moment. Do not scorn the small beginnings or the unnoticed duties. Take the step that lies before you today, however small it may seem, and take it faithfully. For transformation is not found in the distance, waiting for you to arrive. It is being born in each step you choose to take now. And when those steps are faithful, they will lead you to a life far greater than you once imagined.